assignment, basically. Okay, so IA Day, or how to make an IA happy. So, in the beginning, there was a single page. I'm sure many of you will have come across websites that are very similar to this kind of thing, that go on, and on, and on, and on. A bit of a long page. That page does actually exist. It's for a shop that's in Bristol, and if you go on the site, there's lots of rolling smileys. But as with the dawn of many things, we tend to see that we find our way as we go around. When humans first started building homes, they were rudimentary. They were meant to keep the beasts out, heating, it was shelter, and it served a person. But over time, a person's home became a symbol of their wealth and status. From the favelas of Brazil to the stately homes, each says something about the people who live within them. The same thing is starting to be said about the websites that we build. They're becoming a representation of the wealth that the organisation can display. From startups, Hello Nomad on the left-hand side, and ExxonMobil, who have just been ranked as one of the largest companies in the world. Not Apple, believe it or not. Each also represents the wealth of a business. But does the amount of money that you throw at a website really reflect how good the website actually is? I'd argue not. More often than not, money will equal size and the misbelief that it conveys the authority, that it builds trust with the visitors. For those that deal with architecture, like this, you will know that that is counterintuitive. Why? Because if you've ever had to hunt for something on a website that you really, really needed, like Alberta, trying to find something and really not being able to find it in context, you'll have felt the pain and maybe voted with your feet and left. I'm also sure that many of you here today will encounter the demolition conundrum, whereby a client or even your own business will have told you to flatten the whole thing and start again. Little bit demoralising, more so if you've been instrumental in building the thing in the first place. Well, what can be learned from demolishing an entire architecture? Very little if it's done without consideration. This is what I like to consider the failure to understand what is good and bad about a website. This is what I consider to be IA debt. Let's just consider for that for a moment. Note that I said good and bad. Well, we're all so focused on what is bad about a website, and that is why we end up demolishing it. But we take very little time to stop and consider what is good. And if we consider what is good, we might actually make a little bit more out of what we're building. However, when we focus on the bad, it's normally things like users can't find anything. It's too big to maintain. We've renamed most of our products. They're exactly the same products. We want people to get to things a lot quicker. And we want people to buy more. Yeah, I know, we've heard it all before. So as this is the last talk of the day, and I'm sure everybody is very keen to get to the drinks, and we're overrunning ever so slightly, I thought that I would finish off with a story, handcrafted by myself. So, to reiterate what Dan said earlier, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Meet Bob. Bob is the leader of a multinational corporation, but it wasn't always this way. Bob started out small. Bob started out with Bob's Bits and Bobs, a tiny little building. But Bob had big ideas, and his business grew. And with the growth of his business, his operational base grew. But with the operational base growing and growing, so did his problems. The little whispers of dissent became louder and louder and louder until we need to be closer to accounting, they said. We need an open plan office for our teams to be a lot more productive. We need more natural light to remain healthy. We need lots of things. And then one day that Bob had enough. The hippo's voices had gotten so loud that he couldn't take it anymore. If anybody hasn't come across hippo before, it's the highest paid person in the room, and I'm sure that many of us have come across that before. Bob had a bright idea. He decided he would build a new big building and fix all his problems. So Bob went and found a famous architect. Meet Andy. Andy's the architect. Andy's company lived and died by its reputation. He's a kind of big deal in his industry. Andy didn't listen to anyone. He knew it. He knew what was best. And I mentioned he's kind of a really big deal. He had lots of medals and lots of awards, and he was amazing. Kings hired him. president's hired him. Yeah, you guessed it, Bob hired him. Bob shares all his worries with Andy. They just won't shut up, he says. Andy listens and he nods his head a lot. Well, actually, just mainly nods his head a lot because he doesn't really listen to anybody. Bob tells Andy that his head office is old, it's creaking, the walls are thin, the windows are even thinner, the wolf is at the door, the maintenance costs are astronomical. He can't find anything. He doesn't know where anyone else works. It's not actually his building, as I say, no, just to get an idea. And he nods his head, listens a little bit more, makes the right noises because he's experienced in these kinds of things, and then he gets out his pen and his paper, and with a quick flourish, he draws Bob's new building. It's a vision of glass and concrete. It won't need air conditioning because the sun's rays will heat it and the greenery in the atrium will cool it. It'll win awards. Everyone will think Bob has made the best decision for his company. Bob is in awe. This will shut him up, he thinks. Out comes the checkbook. Handshakes are exchanged. It's a deal. After many, many years, after the building is flattened and the extension is built and the whole thing is up, it's open for business. The staff are in awe. The customers are amazed. Until, yeah, you guessed it. Those first 5 voices that make the loudest noises, they've all gone. Now there's 500 voices and they're even louder than the original 5, and what they say is even worse. It takes ages to get to the building. It's 10 miles away from the nearest transport connections. There's no public transport. It's costing people a fortune to get there. The building is too hot from the sun, and it's not getting cooled down by that lovely green atrium that seems to be withering and dying quite a lot. They've moved all the departments around. The open plan layout, it's affecting productivity. Bob is at a loss. What have I done? I know. I'll go and talk to Andy. Andy will have the answer. He's the one that inspired me to build this big building. He'll know what to do. So he sits down with Andy, and Andy says, oh, I'll bring in the business consultancy and they'll fix your productivity problems. And then, oh, well, you know, the problem with the temperature? Well, you insisted it should be south-facing. Well, Bob walks out of Andy's architects and thinks, what have I done? And then he thinks, I'm going to go fix this. So he turns around and goes back in. He fires Andy. Then he goes and does some more research. He needs a new solution to his problem. And in the solution to his problem, he finds Carol. So he goes and talks to Carol, the people that Carol has helped. He visits places that Carol has built. He does a lot more research and a lot more insight. He hires Carol. Carol has a nice little boutique architect firm, which was initially looked by Bob as being too small and too niche. But Bob is a changed man. He believes that Carol can really help. So Carol says, let's talk to your people. Let's find out what your problems are. After a lot of talking, nice and happy, Carol knows everyone in the business, from Bob at the top to Zander in the mailroom. She knows what the problems are and where they are. The old loud hippos that don't work anymore, well, they're gone. Well, they just wanted a nice big shiny building because that's what everybody else had. So there was never really as big a problem as that was perceived in the first place. The loyal workers who stuck by Bob said, sure, the old place was a bit cold in winter and a bit warm in the summer, but people talk to each other. Finance was next to sales. Production was next to design. There was an awesome local hangout on a Friday night. Never overestimate that. There was a culture, and that's the important thing. A few fans and a lick of paint would have made the place more inhabitable, but Carol reorganised the offices to get people sitting back together again, getting them talking to one another. We don't do that in the Mensa Towers, just so you know. There's no inappropriate hugging at all. She even found a new hangout for them on Friday. It was the same as the old hangout, she just managed to get them there. Everybody was happy. And they even went as far as fixing the heating problem. Unfortunately, because this new problem that they created was even bigger than the original problem, it cost a lot more money to fix it. So ultimately, Bob did have to get aircon, which is a bit unfortunate, but everybody's happy. Nice and cool in the summer, nice and warm in the winter, just how everybody likes it. From the first sight of the problem, So the eventual fix is, Bob was 10 years older, millions of pounds lighter. The improvements weren't enough to justify the spend. Of course, this would never happen in real life, would it? It's a thoroughly ridiculous story. You'd never hear of Zaha Hadid or Sir Norman Foster accepting a job like this and making a complete and utter mess of it like Andy did. They have built successful architecture practices on their ability to listen to their customers and solve problems. And of course, this would never happen with information architects. Kidding. Okay. Sad truth is that this sort of thing does actually happen quite a lot of the time. I've experienced it more times than I would care to mention on my hand, and I'm sure that if I got a show of hands, that a lot of other people have as well. If businesses considered their digital bricks and mortars just as, or if not more important than their physical bricks and mortar, we wouldn't be asked to demolish entire sites. So, what can we learn from Andy, Bob and Carol? First of all, ask. Talk to people. Go and find out what the problem is, but more importantly, go and find out what's good about it. So that's actually going out and talking to your users, talking to the people in the business, and not focusing on what the problems are, actually understanding the good and the bad. What works, what doesn't work. Blend what you've got with improvements. Little incremental changes to what you've got already will actually help to shine out some of the good areas. People could have a really, really good way of getting to help on your site, finding out more information about different things. But if you've got it hidden in amongst quite a few larger bad things, so the experience is actually clashing with things, then you're going to have a problem. But if you make small changes and learn from those changes that you're making, you'll get a lot more insight out of it. And challenge. Challenge anyone that thinks that that your site needs to be knocked down and built again. Small problems can become astronomical problems if we fail to understand anything. So don't be afraid to stand up and go, I disagree. I think we just need to do something small at this moment in time. Never be afraid of them. And as because we're going a bit faster, that's it for today. Thank you.